So the UFC is finally back this weekend, and headlining the main event is going to be Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. It's a very exciting matchup that is going to determine the future of the lightweight division. It's going to show us whether Paddy Pimblett is truly part of the elite fighters in the lightweight division and worthy of getting the title shot against Ilia Topuria, or whether Justin Gaethje still has it and can still compete in the lightweight division and be next in line worthy to challenge Ilia Topuria. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters, looking at their clear paths to victory and making a decision about who will win the fight. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. Starting off with Justin Gaethje, we can see that for a long period in time in the lightweight division, he's been someone that has been explosive, dangerous, and has a lot of decent power to stand with people and catch them. When we look into the strengths of Justin Gaethje, we can clearly see that he is someone that has great striking. He's someone that has a decent jab, right hand, uppercuts, hooks and overhands. Alongside that, he has his calf kicks and leg kicks, which he does really well in. When you also look at his other strengths, you can see that because of his wrestling background, he is someone that can handle himself for most people when it comes to wrestling, such as takedown defense, being able to stop them and having really good scrambles. Justin is also well experienced because he's been given the chance to fight many of the best fighters in the lightweight division on many occasions. He can have technical fights with people, or he can go in there and stand and bang and brawl with them. However, when we look at the weaknesses of Justin Gaethje, we can clearly see that although he is a decent striker, his technique can be a bit off. And what I mean by this is that he is someone that can overextend and overcommit to his punches because he's trying to land with a lot of power, and because of that he can lose his balance, and which does result in him being susceptible to counters or just falling on the floor because of the lack of balance. There's also the issue of Justin's defense when it comes to submissions, as his jiu-jitsu isn't the best compared to other fighters, and there has been instances in his career where he's been caught by submissions, which shows how he struggles against fighters that can put him in uncomfortable situations on the ground and submit him. Now moving on to Justin's opponent is going to be Paddy Pimblett, who's the rising star in the UFC, and the strength of Paddy Pimblett is that he is someone that has decent jiu-jitsu, as there's been many instances in his career where he's caught people because of how elite his jiu-jitsu is. There's also the advantage that Paddy Pimblett is quite unorthodox. He tends to strike in a different way than a lot of people aren't really taught to, which can be off-putting. And there are some tools in his striking arsenal which are pretty underrated. He has decent knees, calf kicks, leg kicks, and he is capable of stinging people if he catches you with a well-placed shot. However, there are some things that Paddy Pimblett does which aren't really ideal and are big weaknesses for him. The first weakness is that he doesn't have the best defense, and what I mean by this is that he doesn't really keep his hands high and doesn't really have the best of head movement. You know, if you aren't going to keep your hands high, you might want to have decent head movement to evade shots so you don't get caught. But Paddy Pimblett doesn't do either of those things, which does result in him getting hit quite a lot and taking unnecessary damage. Paddy Pimblett's punching ability isn't as good as his other aspects of striking. What I mean by this is that yes, he has decent kicks and knees. The fact that his punching ability doesn't stand out as well as his other aspects. He does kind of have horrible punching technique, and when you compare it to people like Ilia Topuria, for example, you can clearly see Ilia throws with proper technique, whereas Paddy's kind of amateur when he throws his punches. Now both fighters have clear paths to victory. Starting with Justin Gaethje, he clearly has to make sure that the fight stays standing, as on the ground Justin's jiu-jitsu and submission defense isn't as good as Paddy's, so that is something to watch out for. By keeping the fight standing on the feet, he can use his arsenal of punching, kicking to his advantage, as he's a lot better when it comes to Paddy when it comes to striking, so that can be a very useful tool to have to win the fight. Justin has got to be the one that pressures Paddy with the striking and does not give Paddy any chances to blitz at him and get him. By keeping the right distance and range to land his powerful shots on Paddy can increase his chances to win, and by staying calm and composed it can allow Justin Gaethje to avoid getting into any brawls or getting overexcited and overcommitting to any shots, which can leave him susceptible to counters or getting taken down onto the ground and getting submitted. Now moving on to Paddy Pimblett, and for him to win the fight against Justin Gaethje, he has to do these things, which is being patient and hitting him with the right shots. What I mean by this is that he shouldn't really go after Gaethje and try hit him with all sorts of punches, because his punching ability isn't as there as Justin's. So what I'd say for Paddy Pimblett, he's got to hit him with those calf kicks, those body kicks, those knees, the head kicks, Paddy's kicking game is a lot better than his punching game, so if you are going to stay there standing, I'd say don't go after him and trying to KO him. I'd say take your time, be patient and hit him with the right shots when Justin misses. I'd also say that when the fight does get a bit messy, it does give Paddy a chance to latch onto Justin Gaethje when they're towards the cage, and by latching onto him it can increase the chances of Paddy catching Justin on the ground to a submission and submitting him, which is Paddy's best chance of winning the fight against Justin Gaethje. Paddy Pimblett has got to utilise his striking and distance management so that the fight can eventually lead onto the floor, where Paddy Pimblett can catch Justin with submission. I would also say that Paddy's got to feint a lot in the fight, and by feinting takedowns it's going to have Justin Gaethje constantly thinking on his feet and be worried about that takedown, which can lead him susceptible to counters or eventually get the takedown landed on him, which can result in Justin Gaethje getting submitted later in the fight. We can see that both fighters are great at what they do, but if I had to pick someone to win the fight, I'm going to lean towards more to Justin Gaethje, and my reasons for this is because he's a better striker than Paddy Pimblett and has the capability of catching Paddy off guard because of his bad defense. I'd also say that because there's been instances where Justin's lost in his career, and it's because they put the pressure on him. You know, you see the fight with Poirier in the first fight, and you see the fight with Holloway. If you constantly put the pressure on Justin Gaethje, he can crumble a bit. But knowing Paddy Pimblett, the way he strikes isn't as pressure heavy. The way he succeeded in the Chandler fight was because he was staying reactionary and trying to counter when he did then started pressuring him. But with Justin Gaethje, I'm not going to say that's going to work as well, and on the feet I do see the chances of Justin winning. Now, I did mention earlier that Paddy's jiu-jitsu and submission threat is a big problem for Justin. However, the issue is getting Justin onto the ground so that he can be in position to get submitted, which is easier said than done. The times we've seen Justin getting submitted is when Khabib took him down, and Paddy's takedown ability isn't like Khabib's, it's a bit lower, so I'd say that kind of goes out of the window. Unless he's been working on it, then you could argue for that, but from what we've seen, I'm not going to say that he can take him down with ease, plus the fact that Justin's takedown defense is pretty good. And the second time when Justin was submitted was because he got knocked down by Charles Oliveira. And looking at Paddy's ability when compared to Charles Oliveira, I don't see it as that high level compared to Charles. They're not on the same level, so I don't see that similar sort of scenario playing out in this fight. So if I had to predict a round for Justin Gaethje to win, I'd say it would be around round 3 or 4 by a stoppage. But anyways, that's been this video. This was just my personal prediction over the fight for Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Who do you think will win the fight this weekend? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.